Hezbollah warns Israel against Lebanon border flare-up. Haiti fuel truck explosion claims at least 24 lives. Good afternoon and salam Malaysia Budani. This is World Today. I'm Daryl Baptist. Hezbollah, second in command, has warned that an all-out war by Israel aimed at returning 100,000 displaced people to their homes in areas near the Lebanon border would displace hundreds of thousands more. Naim Qasim, number 2 in the Iran-backed Lebanese group, was speaking after Defense Minister Yoav Gallant said Israel was determined to restore footing in its northern front. In a speech in Beirut, Qasim said Hezbollah has no intention of going to war, as it considered that this would not be useful. However, Qasim said if Israel does unleash a war, Hezbollah is ready to face up to it, and there will be large losses on both sides. Hezbollah has traded nearly daily fire with Israeli forces in support of ally Hamas since the Israel-Hamas war escalated on 7th October last year. Thousands of people living in the border area of both countries have been displaced by the fighting. On Saturday evening, the Israeli occupation forces said its air force had struck 2 locations in Lebanon's eastern Bekaa Valley, as well as 6 locations in the south. 3 children were among 4 people wounded in an Israeli strike in the northern Bekaa's Hermel district. Meanwhile, thousands of anti-government Israeli protesters have gathered in central Tel Aviv, calling for more efforts to secure the release of captives held in Gaza. The protesters gathered outside army headquarters and other government buildings, chanting slogans against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and urging him to reach a deal with Hamas to ensure the return of about 100 captives still held in the war-battered strip. Mass protests have been renewed in the illegal state of Israel in the past 2 weeks. An estimated 750,000 people attended last weekend's rally. Families of the captives who participated in yesterday's rally said they are frustrated over the government's failed negotiations to bring the captives home. Many blamed Netanyahu for not reaching a deal because they believe it will help him remain in power as long as the war lasts. Russia and Ukraine conducted a major exchange of prisoners, 206 in all, in their second such swap in 2 days, following negotiations mediated by the United Arab Emirates. President Volodymyr Zelensky said that all 103 Ukrainians returned were from the military, comprising 82 soldiers and privates and 21 officers. Russian Defense Ministry, meanwhile, said that the 103 Russian soldiers exchanged had been taken prisoner in the border Kursk region, where Ukrainian forces launched a surprise incursion in August. This was UAE's 8th such mediation since the start of 2024. Kyiv and Moscow have frequently exchanged prisoners since Russia's invasion in February 2022, and yesterday's swap was the 3rd since Ukraine began a cross-border incursion into Russia's Kursk region in early August. Ukrainian officials have previously said its troops had captured at least 600 Russian soldiers during the incursion, and that this would help it secure the return of captured Ukrainians. Ukraine's ombudsman Dmytro Lubinets said the majority of the freed Ukrainians had been in Russian captivity since the early days of the invasion. Lubinets further said that Kyiv had so far secured the return of 3,672 Ukrainians in 57 exchanges. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un met with his visiting top Russian security official, Sergei Shoigu, and discussed deepening strategic dialogue between the two countries. The two leaders had a wide exchange of views on regional and international situations and reached a satisfactory consensus on issues, including more cooperation to defend mutual safety interests. Kim said North Korea will continue to expand cooperation with Russia in accordance with the strategic partnership between the two countries. Russia's Security Council, meanwhile, said that Shoigu's meeting with Kim will make an important contribution to the implementation of the defense pact. The United States and Ukraine, among other countries, as well as independent analysts, say that Kim is helping Russia in its invasion of Ukraine by supplying rocket and missiles in return for economic and other military assistance from Moscow. Moscow and Pyongyang denied the accusations, but pledged to boost military cooperation and signed a comprehensive strategic partnership at a summit in June. 3 American citizens, 2 Spaniards and a Czech citizen have been detained in Venezuela on suspicion of plotting to destabilize the country through violent actions. The government said hundreds of weapons had been seized. Interior Minister Diosdado Cabello said the 5 people were held on suspicion of planning an attack on President Nicolas Maduro and his government. He said the 2 Spaniards were recently detained in Puerto Ayacucho in the southwest. He added 3 Americans and a Czech national were also arrested and linked the alleged plot to intelligence agencies in the United States and Spain, as well as to Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado.
La CIA está al frente de esta operación. Y la otra, que tampoco nos extraña, pero ellos siempre han mantenido un bajo perfil sabiendo que la CIA opera en esta zona, que es el Centro Nacional de Inteligencia de España. Estos 2 capturados así los dicen, inclusive hablan ellos de un grupo de mercenarios que están buscando para traerlos a Venezuela con objetivos muy claros de asesinar al presidente Nicolás Maduro, a la vicepresidenta Delcy Rodríguez, a mi persona en este caso y otro grupo de compañeros que son dirigentes de nuestro partido y de nuestra revolución.
The arrest came amid heightened tensions between Venezuela and both the United States and Spain over Venezuela's disputed 28th July presidential election, which the country's opposition accused Maduro of stealing. Elsewhere, Algeria's constitutional court confirmed that President Abdelmadjid Tebboune had won a second term with 84.30% of the vote in an election on 7th September. State media reported that the final voter turnout reached 46.10%. The campaign of rival candidate Abdel Ali Hassani Sherif had previously alleged irregularities in the count. Tebboune, backed by the military, was facing only nominal opposition from Hassani Sherif and Youssef Ouchiche, a moderate secularist, both running with the blessings of Algeria's powerful establishment. According to state media, Hassani Sherif received 9.56% of the vote, while Ouchiche got 6.14%. Still ahead, WHO flags limited Mpox testing in Democratic Republic of Congo. But before that, a tanker truck exploded in southwestern Haiti, killing at least 24 people, as witnesses reported that victims had been trying to collect fuel from a leaking tank. Head of Haiti's Civil Protection Agency, Emmanuel Pierre, said the explosion also injured about 40 people, with some suffering burns over most of their bodies. Haiti Prime Minister Gary Conille visited the site near the coastal city of Miragouen in the department of Nipes and said some of the most seriously injured victims were evacuated by helicopter to receive medical care. He pledged government support for the victims and their families. A witness to the incident said the truck's gas tank had been punctured by another vehicle and people rushed to the site to collect fuel. Fuel deliveries to the Miragouen area have slowed in recent weeks as trucks were transported via ferry to avoid gang-controlled highways surrounding the capital of Port-au-Prince. Limited capacity is keeping Mpox testing coverage low in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the epicenter of the international emergency. The World Health Organization said the Mpox case fatality ratio in the country this year was 0.5% among confirmed cases and 3.3% among suspected cases, both tested and untested. The WHO said the limited access to laboratory testing in remote areas, only about 40% of all suspected cases have been tested this year, and among these, around 55% tested positive. It said that the three countries reporting the most suspected cases in the year up to 8 September were the Democratic Republic of Congo, followed by Burundi and Nigeria. There are 2 clades of Mpox, each with A and B subclades. The WHO said the clades and their subclades were circulating in different geographic areas and were affecting different populations and therefore needed tailored and locally adapted outbreak responses. It further noted that current sequencing capacity in the Democratic Republic of Congo is limited and clade distribution might be broader than what is currently known. Iran has blasted a new research satellite into orbit in the latest such development for an aerospace program that has long faced Western criticism. The Chamran-1 research satellite was successfully launched and put into orbit by the Game 100 carrier. The satellite, which weighs around 60 kilograms, was designed to test hardware and software systems for orbital maneuver technology. The device was produced and built by Iranian electronics industries affiliated with the Defense Ministry. Western governments, including the United States, have repeatedly warned Iran against such launches, saying the same technology can be used for ballistic missiles, including those designed to deliver a nuclear warhead. Iran has countered that it is not seeking nuclear weapons and that its satellite and rocket launches are for civil or defense purposes only. The Game 100 rocket, which carried the latest satellite, was also used in January to send a satellite for the first time into an orbit above 500 kilometers. Myanmar's junta chief has made a rare request for foreign aid to cope with deadly floods that have displaced hundreds of thousands of people who have already endured 3 years of war. Floods and landslides have killed almost 300 people in Myanmar, Vietnam, Laos and Thailand in the wake of Typhoon Yagi, which dumped a colossal deluge of rain when it hit the region last weekend. In Myanmar, more than 235,000 people have been forced from their homes by floods, piling further misery on the country where war has raged since the military seized power in 2021. In Taungu, around an hour south of the capital, Nay Pai Dao, residents paddled makeshift rafts on floodwaters that reached the roofs of some buildings. Around 300 people were sheltering at a monastery on high ground in a nearby village. The rains in the wake of Typhoon Yagi also sent people across Southeast Asia fleeing by any means necessary, including by elephant in Myanmar and jet ski in Thailand. At least 4 people have died in Romanian floods triggered by Storm Boris, which has brought torrential rain and widespread disruption to Central and Eastern Europe. Rescue services said that since Thursday, swathes of Austria, the Czech Republic, Hungary, Romania and Slovakia have been hit by high winds and unusually fierce rains. In Romania, at least 4 bodies were discovered in the worst affected region, Galati in the southeast, where 5,000 homes were damaged. Rescue services released a video of flooded homes in a village by the Danube River and said hundreds of people have been rescued across 19 parts of the country. Emil Dragomir, mayor of Slobozia Konachi village in Galati, said it was a catastrophe of epic proportions, adding that 700 homes in the village had been flooded. Meanwhile, around 100,000 firefighters have been mobilized in the Czech Republic, where nearly 2,900 incidents were recorded on Friday, most of them due to fallen trees and floods. Czech power company CEZ said almost 50,000 homes were without electricity, and a hospital in the southeastern city of Brno was evacuated yesterday morning. Neighboring Slovakia has also declared a state of emergency in the capital, Bratislava. Next up in sports, revitalized Pearly Tina eye Hong Kong Open crown. But before that story, Malaysia, the second highest ranked team in the Asian Champions Trophy, failed miserably in China as they missed out on the semi-finals. World number 13 Malaysia were handed a top 4 target, but will now be fighting for pride, hoping to avoid finishing last when they face Japan in the 5th place playoff tomorrow. Sarjit Singh's side could have secured a semi-final spot had they defeated South Korea in their final round-robin match yesterday. Leading 3-2, Malaysia conceded an equalizer in the final seconds, allowing South Korea to secure a 3-all draw and a place in the semi-finals. Malaysia's fate then rested on Japan, defeating China, but the hosts went on to win 2-0, sealing their spot in the last 4. World number 5 India, who topped the 6-team round-robin competition, will face third-placed South Korea in the semi-finals, while second-placed Pakistan will take on fourth-place China. Malaysia finished 5th with 5 points, recording 1 win, 2 draws and 2 defeats. This marks the first time that Malaysia have failed to finish on the podium since the Asian Champions Trophy's inception in Ordos, China in 2011. Last year in Chennai, Malaysia reached the final for the first time before losing 4-3 to India. In badminton, national top women's doubles pair, Pearly Tan and M. Tina, powered their way to back-to-back Hong Kong Open finals when they stunned top seed Baek Ha-na and Lee So-hee in the semi-finals of the 2024 edition in Kowloon yesterday. The third-seed duo survived a grueling 74-minute rubber-sat battle against Hana and So-hee before prevailing 22-20, 17-21, 21-15 in the Super 500 tournament held in Hong Kong Coliseum. This victory marks their third win over the world number 2 duo in 4 encounters. Both pairs first met in the semi-finals of the French Open 2022, which went to the Malaysians' way 21-13, 21-17. Pearly and Tina, the current world number 8, will now face second-seeded Liu Shengshu and Tan Ning from China later today. Yesterday's results offers Pearly and Tina a chance to bounce back after their loss in last year's final against Indonesia's Apriyani Rahayu and Siti Fadia Silva Ramadanti. The Paris 2024 Olympic Games semi-finalists last claimed a title at the 2022 French Open, where they defeated Japan's Mayu Matsumoto and Wakana Nagahara 21-19, 18-21, 21-15. Moving on to football, a superb second-half goal from substitute Callum Hudson-Odoi gave Nottingham Forest the biggest surprise win of the Premier League season so far as they beat Liverpool 1-0 at Anfield. Liverpool dominated the opening half and Luis Diaz came close to breaking the deadlock in the 17th minute, hustling to keep the ball in play on the Forest goal line and cutting inside before firing a rasping shot off the near post. 2 minutes later, Mohamed Salah crossed beautifully with the outside of his left boot for Dominic Szoboszlai to head just wide as Liverpool increased the pressure. For all the chances they created in the first half, all too often the Liverpool attackers found themselves on different wavelengths, and much of their play lacked their usual fluidity as chances went begging. Their wastefulness was punished in the 72nd minute as Anthony Elanga found his fellow substitute Hudson-Odoi with a brilliant crossfield ball, and the 23-year-old winger cut inside before curling a tremendous effort past goalkeeper Alisson. The win was Forest's first at Anfield since 1969, and the players and the away fans celebrated accordingly as the home crowd was left to rue a rudderless display from the Reds that lacked a cutting edge. In another match, Manchester City recovered to beat Brentford 2-1 and maintain their perfect start to the season after Premier League top scorer Erling Haaland netted twice following the fastest goal of the season from the visitors. Brentford had the perfect start when they scored 22 seconds after kickoff, when City defender John Stones and keeper Edison made a mess of Keane Lewis Porter's header into the 6-yard box, allowing Ioane Wissa to nod the ball into the empty net. The Bees continued to threaten in attack as they found space on the flanks behind City's defence time and time again. But Haaland restored parity in the 20th minute when he scored from a tight angle with his second touch of the game. Although City had less possession in the first half, they made it count and went ahead when Edison booted the ball upfield, where Haaland outmuscled defender Ethan Pinnock and chipped the ball past Mark Flecken to make it 2-1. Haaland's double takes his tally to 9 goals in 4 games, more than any English top-flight team has managed so far this season, while City's victory gave them a 3-point lead at the top after Liverpool's 1-0 home loss to Nottingham Forest. Meanwhile, Lionel Messi dazzled in his return from injury, scoring 2 goals in the space of 4 minutes and adding an assist in Inter Miami's 3-1 Major League Soccer victory over the Philadelphia Union. Messi grabbed the equaliser in the 26th minute, collecting a pass from Luis Suarez and beating ahead in the 30th minute, connecting again with Alba and firing a left-footed shot from the centre of the area into the bottom right corner. Up in our Offbeat segment, daredevil biker rides on open water in the Black Sea. Georgian motorsport competitor Georgi Gakiladze took to the waves off the coast of Georgia, riding 33 kilometers on the surface of the water on his modified motorcycle. Gakiladze traveled the distance between 2 Georgian coastal towns of Kobuleti and Poti on the Black Sea. The vehicle was fitted with handmade skis to enable Gakiladze and his bike to glide on the water. However, Gakiladze still had to maintain a high speed to avoid sinking and had to watch out for even small waves that could have destabilized his motorcycle. Gakiladze said he had been in training for about half a year for the effort.
Ახლობით ნახევარი წლის წინ დავიწყე მომზადება პატარა სატესტო გასვლები, ტექნიკა შევუკვეთეთ, ჩამოვიყვანთ ახალი მოტოციკლეტი, დავამზადებინეთ კურსწავლულად ჩემს მეგობარს ეს თხილამური და მოკლედ გავაკეთეთ სატესტო გარბენები თბილისის ზღვაზე. დაახლოებით 10 კილომეტრიან გარბენებს ვაკეთებდი, 8 კილომეტრია სიგრძეში თბილისის ზღვაზე, 8 კილომეტრიან გარბენებს ვაკეთებდი და მერე უკვე რავი ჩამოვით აქ გუშინ სატესტო გარბენი გავაკეთე და დღეს უკვე გამომივიდა, არ ვიცი, ძალიან ბედნიერია, იმიტომ ჩვენმა შრომამ გუნდის თანადგომამ შედეგი გამოიღო.
Hornussen, a centuries-old Swiss sport where a puck is lashed with a stick, sending it flying at speeds of up to 300 kilometers per hour, is embracing modernity, with each shot now recorded live via a smartphone app and clips shared on TikTok. The quirky sport gets its name from the puck, known as a hornus or hornet, due to the buzzing sound it makes as it whizzes through the air. The game sees one side whip the hornus with a wooden peg on a flexible stick, while the other team, 100 to 300 meters away, tries to stop it from landing using heavy, flat wooden shovels. Each time it lands untouched, a penalty point is issued to the defending team. The team with the fewest penalties wins. The amateur sport wrapped up its biggest event in 6 years earlier this month, when around 4,500 players took part in the 40th National Hornussen Festival. Outside the village of Hochstetten, teams battled to win a crown of oak leaves, a ceremonial cowbell, or a coveted bull's horn to take back to their clubhouses. With 32 Hornussen fields laid out over 60 hectares of farmland, the scene almost resembled a battlefield, with columns of players stretching to the horizon, and the day's play starting with cannon fire. A touring Canadian-created light display featuring colorful lanterns and millions of LED lights made its international debut in Singapore. According to organizers, Illumi, which was first held in Montreal in 2019, utilizes around 20 million LED lights in total. Dinosaurs, jungles, winter wonderland, and sand dunes are among the themes of the intricately lit displays at the Singapore Illumi. Creator Normand Latourelle said he took inspiration from his dreams and travels for the many different themes featured.
I'm a guy who has a lot of ideas and a lot of dreams, so I came from my dream and also from my traveling. Ideas that come, you know, what I've seen, what I've done. So I kind of came with some package of these ideas and develop it to my imagination, and I created for here 9 different worlds. And those worlds, they are adapted to Singapore, but those worlds represent, you know, a fun place to be.
He said that he chose LED lights due to their safe and relatively environmentally friendly nature. Organizers said the exhibit, which was constructed over a period of around 6 weeks, will be held until February next year in Singapore. A new immersive installation inspired by Barbie's dream house and the desert landscape of Greater Palm Springs, California, is on display as part of this year's London Design Festival. 3 pavilions in central London, which were designed by Nina Tolstrup from design studio Studio Mama, features scenes inside the famed Mattel doll's home seen through small windows, as well as a mini garden space with cacti to be explored.
So this is 3 installations, pavilions that are inspired by the Barbie dream house, and the playfulness and all the colors that comes with the Barbie universe and Greater Palm Springs. So here we are in a cactus garden. We went to visit Palm Spring for the research and was very inspired by the landscape, and particularly because we are in the desert, so there are a lot of wonderful cactuses.
Meanwhile, director of London Design Festival, Ben Evans, called Barbie a modernist who has had a recent renaissance with the 2023 film starring Margot Robbie in the title role. He said along with the exhibition at the Design Museum, the installation plays another part in that journey. And that wraps up World Today. In our top story, Hezbollah warns Israel against Lebanon border flare-up. Tune in to Malaysia Tonight, coming up at 8:30 p.m. on TV1 and Saluran Berita RTM. Till then, I'm Darryl Baptist, Malaysia Madani, Jiwa Merdeka. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.